The big release with Shah Rukh Khan's Donkey was obviously the Prabhas starrer Salaar directed by Prashanth Neel, a balls to the wall commercial action film that is, for a lack of a better word, really catered to the mass audience. Prabhas has had a tough run at the box office ever since Bahubali. Even collaborations that were considered to be dead certs like Adipurush went terribly wrong. So everyone wondered that if one can really save Prabhas at this juncture of his career, it has to be Prashanth Neel, especially while having one of the biggest hits under his kitty just 2 years ago. Salaar focuses on the fictional kingdom of Khansar and the friendship between Deva and Varda, played by Prabhas and Prithviraj respectively. When the king is absent, the ministers, each with their own ulterior motive, plan to stage a coup so that the prince does not become the heir to the throne. Acknowledging the threat that looms around the corner, Varda seeks the help of his childhood friend Deva, and the battle that ensues, slowly exploring the origins of each character, forms the basic premise of this high-octane Telugu film. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of Salaar so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch it in theaters or not. Characterization and world building. One of the most fascinating aspects of Salaar is to see Prashanth Neel's wild ideas come to life. Barring the sluggish, outlandish, and unnecessarily loud first half, when Prashanth really focuses his attention on the various tribes of Khansar, its history, the tribes and their eccentricities, this is where the film really comes to life. The problem with this Prashanth Neel venture is that his mind really did not have any bearings. Almost like a child in the sandbox given all the toys he wants, and no one even monitors him. Some of my favorite characters and their personality traits include Sriya Reddy's character Radha Manar, a loyal daughter who, as the years have gone by, is frothing in the mouth for revenge. You've got a devious character, almost an extension of the wicked witches from Macbeth, styled like Mantara from Ramayana, stirring the pot, instilling anger among the principal characters, for the hero seems to return from the abyss. You've got a Shakuni-like figure in the group of ministers too, constantly conspiring and thinking about power, played by Prithviraj. The exceptional manner in which the tribes are styled, each having distinct costumes and makeup, you could easily formulate that Khansar deserves a series of its own. Prithviraj was right when he described the board on which Prashanth Neel wrote all the intricate details of this fictional world, and thinking that it's far too expansive to be condensed into a feature film. I mean, you've got everything from political conspiracy like Game of Thrones, drug-induced zombies like The Walking Dead, sorcery and prophecies like Shakespeare tragedies, and you do notice, right, the leaps I'm taking with each idea? This is where Prashanth's untamed ideas needed some anchoring, because some ideas land and some just seem bizarre, indulgent and information dense. As I said in my point about the characterization and world building, there is far too much information that is almost vomited, with the assumption being that the audience will imbibe, understand, and more importantly, empathize with the characters and their motivations. There are more than 10 supporting characters, each having a stake in the matter, each exploring their own interpersonal relationships, and all of this has a direct context with the tribe and family they are from. If you really want to have a true understanding of Khansar and its characters, then you genuinely have to go to the theater with your notepads and take notes. I understand that the feature film is divided into two parts, but at one point of time, so much information is flung at you that you become disoriented, much like Shruti Haasan's character in the film, terribly acted by the way, who is listening to the story about the origins of Khansar and Deva. The most frustrating part of the film is that the most interesting portions commence in the latter half of the film, really making your blood boil for the several minutes that were lost in the first half in just making us edge and never satisfied. The running time of the film being close to 3 hours long could have been justified had the prime focus been about the political conspiracy and origins of Khansar, not an irritating mother getting hassled with Prabhas holding a plastic knife. Cinematography and set design. I know many people criticize Prashanth Neel to have a color palette that is not only desolate and grim, but that mimics his previous films, but it genuinely works for the tone and pitch of this tale. Cinematographer Bhuvan Gowda has really done a spectacular job in making this film the big screen experience it anyway promised all of us at the end of the calendar year. What's lovely especially about the frames is the integration of color, a tribe that is styled in red almost working as an orchestra as Prabhas annihilates an influential figure is visual cinematic gold. This is where the set design of Shivakumar needs to be lauded, especially in the portions where the action comes in full full gear. You can't help but be mesmerized by the visuals. The last 20 minutes of the film, the climax portion that explores the origin stories of some of the most important characters, is designed so well that it made me feel more frustrated than satisfied, for so much time was spent in creating so much build-up that you would have much rather preferred a deep dive from the word go rather than constantly building the hero and his aura, which at one point of time just became exhausting. Speaking of which, edging and irritating characters. The first half of the film will make you feel like you're opening a present on your birthday, and the prank is that there are layers into the packaging, a present within a present, stalling you throughout for the big reveal. The first half of Salaar reminds me of the meme posted by Prabhas, one of the Instagram influencers, who referenced how many commercial movies presented on a high pitch like this, characters just don't speak to each other. They just announce information and entries.
चुप हो जाओ, तुम लोग जिस पर चिल्ला रहे हो असल में कौन है वो जानते भी हो? तुम दोनों परिवारों को एक करने के लिए आया था वो।
There is no organic back and forth but a lot of shouting, and as I said, announcements of one's arrival or ability. The two characters that really got on my nerves were Ishwari Rao playing Deva's mother. One of the strongest qualities of KGF was the mother and son bond that kept the protagonist going, despite the hardships flung his way. But in this film, you barely feel an emotional connection between the mother and son. She overreacts at the smallest inconvenience that gets on your nerves versus being an indication of a caring mother. How many vadas Prabhas has to keep up with becomes so tiring. I don't understand who really approved the dialogues or accent of Shruti Haasan, but even while justifying her accent as she returns from the States, Shruti seems so out of place in this film, while hilariously just being a bystander throughout. She is zapped through most of the film, and with this heavy accent and flippant remarks like "what is going on" had me rolling, all of course being unintentional comedy. The need for funny zingers in the climax also had me laughing. Prithviraj as a threat announcing the arrival of Prabhas says, तुमने उन्हें ड्रग्स देके पागल बनाया है, पर वो तो पैदाइशी पागल है. It also doesn't help in creating a unique experience when Prashanth resorts to the same storytelling and narration format as he did with KGF. Glimpses of mass action. This is the best way in which Prabhas has been presented since Bahubali, hands down. I have absolutely no doubt about it. While the initial portions of Prabhas do seem stiff, he really grows on you, especially when the protective side of Deva and Vardha is showcased. He is slightly schizophrenic as well, having spurts of anger and immediately apologizing to Vardha. The film will make you think that it can easily pass off as a gay romantic drama than a warring brothers saga. I was baffled when people raved about the coal fight of Prabhas. It's one abrupt cut after the other, with random goons flying in the air and Prabhas barely even being mobile. Thank God this slightly changes for the better in the latter portions. There are two action set pieces that really stood out for me. A portion where Deva teaches a lesson to an influential figure of Khansar who is harassing a young girl. The prayers of the tribe finally get answered as an embodiment of goddess Kali and her 10 hands gets fully immersed in Deva. The other action set piece that I love, especially in the way it was staged and built, was when Vardha is threatened by one of the influential ministers. The moment he is touched, a sequence clearly an homage to Prabhas's Bahubali will instantly make you hoot and cheer, solidifying also for me that this film is meant to be seen in a packed theatre and nowhere else. Prithviraj also delivers in the combat sequences, especially when both the principal characters are soaked in blood, as Khansar becomes representative of the purge, where every man is for himself. Some of the frames in the concluding moments of the film are truly to marvel at, straight out of a graphic novel, which could be a great idea for Khansar in the future. I thought Taman in Veerasimha Reddy was nauseatingly loud, so much so that the theatre owners had to lower the volume of the entire film, but Salaar is screechingly loud, almost to the point where you wonder, is it a glitch in the theatre you're in, or just the decibel levels of the film? Ravi Basroor, usually a dependable collaborator with Prashanth Neel, really disappoints with this venture. None of the scores really standing out as exhilarating or entertaining. What's worse is that even the dialogues are performed by the characters by shouting at the top of their lungs. I'm all for campy, massy films, but everything doesn't have to be pitched as if it's a political rally. The film really has some crazy ideas. I got thoroughly invested in the brainchild of Prashanth Neel and the level of detailing that he formulated with the various tribes in the fictional city of Khansar. The problem is that there are too many ideas, almost as if they could have been a part of other films, making Salaar a mixed bag of wild ideas. KGF had clarity, even with the abundant characters it introduced. I commend the fact that Prabhas seems to have found his groove on screen, finally, but I wish there was more focus on a coherent screenplay, especially the first half, because Prashanth really did go wild. It just needed a little more reeling in, a little more restraint, and of course, a lot more focus. I hope part 2 delivers the same. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Salaar. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.